there's essentially an unpatched method to render cancel culture ineffective. Get famous for being a huge jerk. Of course, if you're famous for sucking, anyone pointing out that you suck is just pointing out a known fact. This isn't a new method. Winston Churchill was thrown out of government before coming back to lead World War II. Pretty much regardless of career type, if you're a jerk, you can almost always stay a jerk. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule, my favorite being Napoleon, who was successfully exiled only after the second time that they tried. But again, there are exceptions to every rule. I'm about to share with you the most devastating report ever written. It is effectively the only source for this entire video. It is also a candidate for the funniest piece of writing ever written by an anonymous author. This document took a company worth $34 billion and reduced it to ash within a week. This is the story of the Hindenburg Research's expose of the Nikola Motor Company. Apologies to all 3 people watching this that already know what an activist short seller is, but for everyone else, I still have to explain it. The usual way you trade stocks is you buy it, and if the price goes up, you say hooray! If the value goes down, you say ah! But you can also do the opposite with what's called short selling, where you basically make a bet that the value of the stock will go down instead. Let me explain the unique appeal of this with a metaphor. If I yell, "This movie rules!" in a crowded theater, everybody's going to be confused, obviously, but nothing's going to change. But if I yell, "Fire!" obviously, everybody's going to panic and get the fuck out of there. But of course, yelling fire in a crowded theater is illegal if there is no fire. So what an activist short seller does is effectively monetarily incentivize themselves by looking for a fire to shout about in order to make everyone else panic and sell without getting the shit suit out of them for manipulating the market. This, as a premise, is quite arguably the single funniest model of legitimate journalism, and that is precisely what the Hindenburg Research does. Which is why they named their company after the most catastrophic airship disaster in human history. They are not being subtle about this at all. That's like calling your hedge fund 911 and Associates. Yeah, kind of actually. The only things that you need to know going into this story is that Nikola's $30 billion valuation, which by the way, is a value greater than the entirety of Ford had at the time, came from the inarguably world-changing ambitions that he had for the trucking industry, spearheaded by its founder, Trevor Milton. Essentially, everything else that you hear from me from here on out is something included in a 38-page, size 11 Arial single-spaced document with no pictures that I have reimagined for you in my own storytelling style. Without further ado, let's begin. I never deceived anyone! Nikola Executive Chairman Trevor Milton. I'd like you to store that in the back of your minds for me, because this is essentially what this paper leads with. This man, who has never deceived anybody, is as essential to his company as Steve Jobs was to Apple. This is to say that this story is not about Nikola, this is about Trevor. There has never been a man more in control of his own destiny than this man. Buckle up, because we are about to go extremely fast. And when I say buckle up, I don't mean in the car sense, I mean in the roller coaster sense. If you don't lock in, you're getting flung off the ride. Here we go. Immediately after dropping out of college, he starts an alarm sale company named St. George Security and Alarm. He successfully sells it for $300,000 to an inquirer who immediately realizes that every single aspect of the company has been completely overpromised. And he returns it to Trevor just to get it off of his hands without getting a single penny back. That is $300,000 that Trevor has now earned by doing absolutely nothing. That's bad, let's make it worse. Sure, Trevor has fucked the guy he sold the business to, but there are still unfucked people in this story. Namely, his equal ownership business partner. Equal means 50-50. Trevor gives that guy $100,000, telling him that that is his half, pocketing an extra $50,000, and then sells the same dysfunctional company, basically without changes, a second time secretly, and gives his partner $0 additional dollars. End of chapter 1, that's me giving you a sampler of Trevor. What the fuck is even happening? That's not actually for us to even figure out. That's for us to watch in bewilderment. Just between you and I, this telling of the alarm story is 50% as fast as I initially intended to tell it to you guys. You see, every story I ever tell in the Meow Kit Mayhem format, which is what you're watching right now, has its own unique list of characters, each with their own captivating brand of selfish stupidity. But the one thing that they always have in common is that each of them have moments of calm before the storm, or else they'd go insane. Trevor Milton is the first character I have featured on my channel that truly does not experience a moment of calm. From 2009 to 2020, Trevor Milton is effectively running down a mountain away from an avalanche of his own creation, knowing that if he stops for even a second, it will consume him. Get ready for an extremely fast 11 years of life. I hope that you brought your skis. If you don't got skis, will some be provided? You could rent them at the shop. I think it's $45 a day, but it comes with the sticks and with boots as well. Actually, no, never mind. Scratch that. I like Egg's answer better. He did another thing, which I talk about in my Patreon extended cut if you're interested in learning even more, before finally starting work on his first alternative energy company, Dehybrid Incorporated. This company worked with compressed natural gas conversion technology and basically immediately finds success. Trevor hits up the CEO of a huge trucking company named Swift Transportation to demonstrate the new technology. What did Trevor show? We have no idea. But what we do know is that the CEO is so impressed that they enter into a development agreement where Swift paid a bunch of money and would have 10 of their trucks converted to Dehybrid tech immediately, with 800 more to come after. This contract, worth $16 million, is a rare instance in this story where actually everything goes right for the most part. There was just one problem. And by one problem, I mean 3 problems. Nothing in this story ever goes right. I just told you that. Lock in. Swift sues Dehybrid because they only ever constructed 5 out of the initial 10 trucks, much less the 800 to come after, none of which worked as advertised. And Dehybrid misappropriated funds on things completely unrelated to trucking. Welcome to the story. Put your skis on. Oh, what a mess. Now, the only thing that matters in this story is the misappropriation part. Not because the other things aren't bad or because misappropriation is a greater crime, but because Trevor's money is running out because he wasted it all on random, non-trucking shit. Remember, always, who gives a fuck about the people that Trevor hurts? Those people are not Trevor. So he immediately starts searching for investors, talking about the $250 to $300 million deal he just closed with Swift Transportation. There's a chance you might be thinking, wait a minute, didn't you just say that this was only worth $16 million? Who cares? Trevor is now saying that it's worth almost 19 times more now because that's a bigger number. But here's the thing. Not only does he not have $300 million, he has $0 because he's being sued by the only company he landed a major deal with because Dehybrid lied about everything. This means that Dehybrid is in dire, extremely dire straits. You see, when a company is making $0 and they're spending more than $0, that's considered bad. So Trevor seeks to simply sell the entire company outright. The issue he's running into, though, is that people like to buy successful companies that are accomplishing things, which his notably is not doing. So he comes up with a plan. What if I just say whatever the fuck I want? It's a plan he's had before and will have again. And so he gets sued again by a new company he was trying to offload this garbage onto for 4 different types of lies, including an extreme exaggeration of how efficient the trucks that they did make actually worked. Just do fraud. It never goes wrong ever. We'll see. Important to note, by the way, Dehybrid often had trouble understanding the Swift driver's data, like the numbers that were coming from the trucks that they had produced. And when they would do the responsible thing and make up whatever numbers that they happened to feel like. Good. For those counting at home, though, that is a 100% litigation rate for Dehybrid's major deals. That looks really bad. Presumably realizing how bad he's screwed things up here, he abandons the company to start a different venture with his dad, which he names Dehybrid Systems. Yes, I'm not kidding. This is a legally distinct entity that just so happens to also work on the exact same compressed natural gas technology, leaving his former partners, who invented the technology, by the way, with nothing because, say it with me, they're not Trevor Milton. Bro's copying off his own failed test. If at first you don't succeed, he then uses the basically identical names to pretend as though Dehybrid Systems had been around for as long as Dehybrid had been. This would be like Sony trying to claim that the PlayStation 5 was the longest running console ever because it had been around since the original PlayStation. And also, everyone that worked on the previous four got $0. It's been documented that people with names starting with the letter D are more likely to become doctors. Does anyone know if there's a similar parallel to looking like and acting like a weasel? Anyhow, in 2014, Trevor does manage to sell the majority share of the Dehybrid Systems company to another company named Worthington for $16 million, which of course he immediately claims to other people was worth much more than $20 million because he can. Also, you're not gonna believe this, but the product still sucked. And many different employees of Dehybrid Systems recounted that they had to run across the country to shittily fix as many different systems as they could to disguise the fact that they had fatal, possibly deadly flaws that could actually kill people, so that the deal could close before the buyers could walk back their inevitable mistake. And we know that Worthington saw it as a mistake too, because over the next 2 years, they would document almost $4 million of additional expenses to deal with the fault of the pile of garbage that they just purchased. I don't want to ever hear that my audience is broke, bro. I literally just gave you the outline to earn $16 million with futuristic car blueprints drawn with crayon and final products held together with Elmer's glue. Hopefully you've been too entertained to either notice or care, but at this point we have yet to talk about the multi-billion-dollar company because Trevor Milton is such an everlasting scumbag that I needed to document everything from before so that there is no room to argue that his upcoming behavior is anything other than the baseline. We start now. For about 1.5 years, Trevor silently works on his new Nikola company. Nothing of note was documented during this period, including what he and his company were doing. And it seems as though silent reading time wasn't exciting enough for Trevor because he decides arbitrarily on May 9th, 2016 to announce to the world that his company is going to unveil the future of US transportation at the end of the year. The semi, called the Nikola One, ran on the compressed natural gas Trevor had spent the last half-decade working with. The truck had been engineered, developed, and they were now finalizing assembly. They were even accepting pre-orders. Why do you all have a problem with this truck? I didn't even expect that to be rhetoric that you guys were sharing. It's not that ugly. It looks dumb and unfinished. Boy, do I have something to tell you. Optimus Prime if he got cancer. That's crazy. Zachary, you might be thinking, this doesn't sound like an arbitrary time to unveil this at all. To which I'd respond, there is no way that you've been listening to me for however long we've been speaking here, because there has truly been nothing I have said to imply that this man finally has a finished product, much less one that will revolutionize an entire industry after 1.5 years. Now, 3 months later, for some reason, and I truly cannot stress to you enough how for some reason this is, Nikola then announces that they have engineered the holy grail of hydrogen technology. Hydrogen technology, not compressed natural gas, completely separate thing, hydrogen technology, which is what their trucks will now be running on. Hooray! The truck will now be zero emission, haul 80,000 pounds for 1,000 miles without stopping, and when it does stop, it will only require 15 minutes of downtime before going back out again for another 1,000 miles. This announcement was even a surprise to the employees. Who gave Trevor the Twitter login, bro? There were no in-house hydrogen capabilities and also no hydrogen partners that were brought aboard. Also, the company tweeted that they were staying with compressed natural gas technology for the foreseeable future 2 weeks before this announcement. Awesome. Like Trump before him. Boy, do I have something to tell you. Foreshadowing is a literary device, and what makes this even less sensible is the fact that they were already claiming that their gas technology was 10 to 15 years ahead of the competition, and thereby they would have absolutely zero reason to even consider pivoting. Regardless, it is made abundantly clear that the truck will be fully functional at the live unveiling. When the day comes, Trevor Milton is all too happy to take up the microphone standing next to his truck to the amazement of all and reiterate over and over again how completely functional it is. And I tell you what he said, but why would I do that when I can show you video of the words coming out of his mouth?
We will have a chain on the seats to prevent people from coming in just for the safety. I don't want someone to end up doing something and driving this truck off the stage. So we're gonna try to keep people from driving off, but this thing fully functions and works, which is really incredible.
Wow! He makes sure to reiterate 3 times that the truck is real before closing out his presentation with this.
I promise you that. For every doubter out there that said that there's no way this is true, how can that be possible? We've done it. It's my pleasure to actually let you guys enjoy the night, see the truck, know it's real, touch it, feel how sturdy it is. You're gonna see that this is a real truck. This is not a pusher.
You might not know what the word pusher means. It's an industry term, and I could read you the definition, but luckily for us, Trevor defines it himself later at the exact same event.
This isn't just a pusher like a lot of vehicles that they unveil are just vehicles that don't actually function. There's a fully functioning vehicle, which is really incredible. You can go through, we can change out pretty much everything we want, all the temperatures. I mean, this is a fully functioning vehicle. It's not just a pusher. That's what they call in the automotive world, a vehicle that they just push and it doesn't move.
About that. Would you like to see a leaked picture of the truck 4 months before this moment? Oh. No. This is, again, 3 months after they claim to be essentially finished with the gas technology truck. And at this moment, there are no e-axles, turbine, natural gas fueling system, or body for the truck. You take it for granted, but when you see an automobile, you assume that there's like an engine, a transmission, a drive shaft, the things that make a car work. There is nothing in there. This man is excitedly pointing to the only car that these people have seen all year that does not even work. It is a box with wheels, and the box was attached to the wheels 1 week before it got on that stage. The truck could not power itself, let alone drive, and we know this because clear as day during the live video of the event, you can see a cord running up through the stage and into the vehicle to power the screen inside of it, which is the only thing that works. Also, you see this H over here? It's also over here. That stands for hydrogen. It's stenciled on. It's stenciled on to a truck with a natural gas fueling system. Forget hydrogen as a power source. If I even tried to put hydrogen into this vehicle, the gas would not even be able to be contained by the fueling mechanism. In essence, this presentation would have been more respectable as a world record attempt for the largest Hot Wheels vehicle than it was as a sales pitch for the revolution of transportation as we know it. The most functional thing about this thing was its wheels. And that's only because that part we've had mastered as a society for a while now. Yeah, okay, sure. It's a really good comment. But it's working. He's convincing people. Now, one thing that makes Trevor even funnier as a character is the fact that he is aware that lying is bad and is also extremely insecure about being perceived as a liar, which really sucks for him because it seems to be the only thing he ever does. So a large amount of his time is spent, like Elon Musk, on where else but Twitter, saying, "You guys don't know anything, stop being mean to me," even when the people that he was speaking to did in fact know something. Bloomberg released an article about how this presentation was a scam, and his immediate response was to call the guy who wrote it a jack job and threatened to sue because he never claimed that it was completed, which is an admirably bold strategy for a man on camera at his own event, repeatedly saying that it was. Given how far behind they were, Nikola and its employees needed to shift into overdrive to compensate for the production of trucks that they had already accepted pre-orders for. You know, while it's easy to be excited about an upcoming release from a game studio known to put out bangers, that sentiment is far less applicable to Nikola, which at this point has still yet to put a real product in the hand of any consumer. The public has not once seen the cargo room, and if they don't see the cargo room and soon, they're going to stop caring. So after a couple more years of effort, which by the way should give you some sense of how absolutely screwed they were looking at this picture from 4 months before the event, they managed to silence all critics, doubters, and naysayers with a commercial titled Nikola One in motion. Sure, it was late, but this commercial went viral across multiple different social media platforms because it showed without a shadow of a doubt that the future of technology that they had been promising was in fact real. The media is absolutely eating this up, especially because they are doing testing on real roads, which is one of the last things that you do before making a vehicle commercially available. The governor of Arizona proudly announces that Nikola Motors is headquartering in his state, and the hype is higher than ever, because it turns out that if you lie just enough, you can actually cover your ass until you no longer have to. Trevor wouldn't be lying about a video commercial as well, would he? BAM! Text conversation, Hindenburg brought receipts. This truck still doesn't exist. Fuck you guys. Was it CGI? No, that cost money. Remember how I told you that the wheels were the best thing on this truck? What I'm saying is that gravity is free. They found a long, isolated stretch of completely straight road, and then strategically positioned the cameras so that it never betrayed the fact that the road was sloped. Much like Fred Durst in 2000, that bitch is rolling. That is awesome. That is awesome. Just to completely dunk on Nikola for this stunt, Hindenburg sent their own guy out with a car to that exact same road to do some testing, and guess what? The car went 56 miles per hour in neutral. Hey, don't look at that, don't look. I know it's hard for you to decide whether you're more impressed by Trevor's contributions to compressed natural gas technology or hydrogen electric technology, but he's about to make that decision even harder, because he announces that Nikola has a new third type of game-changing technology, which he is immediately claiming is giga epic. In fact, he actually can't shut the fuck up about this one. And yes, he's generally not a quiet man, but even this is an uncharacteristic level of excitement. In retrospect, we understand why. Because every other time, Trevor was pitching an idea that lived somewhere between a keynote slide and a hallucination. This time, the product is real, and he knows that it's real because he didn't make it. For reasons only known to God, the worst person continues to be rewarded for his abolishment of morals, and he finds himself in a room with a battery tech company named Zapco, which is primed to change the world. They had developed materials that would double battery life for everything from phones to his hydrogen electric trucks. Let me reiterate. The world is battery powered? Unironically, doubling all battery power is easily a multi-billion-dollar product. And for some reason, this jack job just signed a letter of intent for $56 million, which puts this up there with the Louisiana Purchase in terms of greatest deals ever. On paper, this changes everything. Off paper, there is no paper. It's Trevor's turn to get 349. What a loser. This would be such lazy writing if I were making this fictionally, but this is real. Hello. It turns out that Zapco's president is just an alternate universe Trevor Milton. The product absolutely does not exist. Hey, here's an earthquake of a sentence. Zapco's company president had at that time just been indicted for embezzling from NASA to hire many different prostitutes. They say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. I disagree. I didn't even try making a slide for that phrase because I don't think that it's possible to visually represent what the hell I just said. Aren't the prostitutes also astronauts? There are a very limited number of astronauts on the planet, so if they're also a prostitute, I imagine they go for a pretty high rate. Yes, Your Honor, I got hella pussy. That's awesome. Your Honor, so you don't even get bitches like I do? I don't even gotta pay for them out of pocket. What would be unthinkable to any other CEO is the only thinkable thing to Trevor. And he treats this investment into his company as a purchase of a new lie that he now gets to tell everyone. Yes, it's a dud, and that sucks, but it's no more of a dud than every other thing he's ever publicly claimed. So he continues to talk about it well after he realizes the battery thing is never happening. And with the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit trifecta of lies intact, it is time for Nikola, the greatest transport company to ever do it, to go public on the stock market and immediately be valued at over $30 billion for a company with, again, no real revenue at that time. But as you know, doesn't stop there. It sure doesn't stop there. And why would it? Because cue royalty-free game show music, Trevor just said some bullshit. Nikola produces hydrogen for under $3 a kilogram, 81% cheaper than the rest of the world, representing a major breakthrough. Really not sure why Hindenburg felt the need to even articulate that this is a major breakthrough. 81% improvement is an 81% improvement. Let me put that in perspective for you. What if I could make it so that $100 of groceries costs $19 suddenly? You see, the technology of hydrogen electric that Trevor keeps on talking about could legitimately revolutionize everything. The main issue with it is that it is extremely expensive to produce between isolating hydrogen and building fueling stations. But don't worry, because Trevor is going to build 700 fueling stations across the US and is already able to produce 1,000 kilograms of it a day on site. He says that it's because he has so much experience and he knows better than everyone else. But actually, it's because he's lied so much. The best engineers and scientists on Earth are tripping over themselves to get in the door to work for this company. They managed to land someone for the director of hydrogen production so significant in the world of scientific development that even viewers that are not in STEM fields will still recognize this name. In fact, go ahead, take a guess, you'll probably get it. That's right, it's our boy, Travis Milton! Trevor's human brother who... That slide always looked me in the face, and I made it. Whose last job was paving driveways in Hawaii. He's really good at it too, so say the endorsement sections on his LinkedIn. Here's a feature on Canva. Hold on. Shh. A Scott Shooter Breyer is docking. Sit your white ass down and listen, bro. Mr. Milton poured 2 long and challenging driveways. One driveway was the world's steepest, and extensive walkways with elaborate embossed Hawaiian leaves, the website says. Of course, if you're going to hope to retain a talent like that at your company, you're going to need to reward them handsomely for their efforts. So at the time of this writing, Travis had $110 million worth of stock in Nikola. You're used to hearing big numbers all the time. Let me put it another way. If you made $70,000 a year with no interest, you would have to work until the year 3,530 to catch up. That doesn't include taxes, by the way, just 7,000 raw. Again, this is a man who had absolutely no skills that pertain to anything that you would expect of this job. So what exactly did Travis do at this company to keep his pay? Well, sometimes he'd be asked to, let me just check my notes, hold a rope, or something like that. Masterful gambit for the Nikola company. But that's not the only incredibly overqualified talent that they hired to change the world. The person that they had in the position to lead the rollout of the 700 hydrogen production and fueling stations across the US last worked as a golf club owner in Idaho. Also, their chief engineer was a man whose experience mostly surrounded software development and pinball repair. I'm sure that the team was thoroughly entertained by Funhouse and Theater of Magic machines. If you've been looking for a job anytime in, let's say, the past decade, chances are you've sent in a fully qualified resume to a place that didn't even respond in order to reject you. This is a multi-billion-dollar company that seemingly has no leaders with any experience that pertains to anything in their field at all. These industry-leading pros at Nikola earned themselves 14,000 cancelable reservations for their trucks of the future. 800 of the reservation came from Anheuser-Busch alone, but the majority by far came from a company named US Express, which made up 1/3 of the order and $3.5 billion in promised sales. At least that's what Nikola reported. You know better than to believe that. It didn't make a lot of sense given that US Express had reported $1.3 million of cash on hand in their last quarterly report. That means that they could buy like 4 trucks on a good day. There are several additional redundant stories that I'm not even including in the Patreon extended cut, although there's plenty more there, because at some point it stops adding anything to tell you that Trevor lied in all 31 different Baskin-Robbins flavors. Some of the stories are basically the exact same scam that he somehow pulled twice. But before finishing up this paper, Hindenburg gives Nikola a chance. On the off chance that we are just flat out wrong about absolutely everything, here's Trevor's opportunity to prove it. And they present an itemized list of 53 different questions they have for him if he wants to attempt the impossible and try to save the face that he spent the last decade plus actively destroying. Do you remember the quote at the beginning? The one I told you to remember? The very last question on the list of 53 is as follows. Have you ever deceived anyone? Our conclusion. Nikola is a massive fraud constructed on dozens of lies. Sometimes people misspeak by accident. No one has a perfect memory, and we all occasionally get things wrong. But what we have witnessed at Nikola, and specifically from Trevor Milton, is a pattern of well-planned and deliberate acts of deception ranging from A, the staging of non-working products as if fully functional, wrapped in numerous lies about capabilities that don't exist. B, the staging of misleading videos, which require extensive premeditation, planning, and execution. C, material lies about capabilities, partnerships, and products that simply do not exist at all, on video and often in front of entire rooms full of people. And D, a culture of secrecy and intimidation that at this point has largely kept it all under wraps. We think that Trevor Milton is incapable of telling the truth. We believe he lies like most people breathe. It is natural for him, and our extensive review of his history suggests that it has been this way throughout his entire career. We truly think Nikola is both a sign of the time and a story for the ages. By the time a press release is put out by Nikola's lawyers just 4 days later, the value of the stock was shot by more than half. The single document brought the company worth $30 billion down to about 12, all by itself. As I mentioned, it took Nikola 4 days to cobble together a response to the Hindenburg onslaught. Their PR response starts as follows. Nikola sets the record straight. No, says Hindenburg just a day after this document drops. We view Nikola's response as a tacit admission of securities fraud. Oh, Fuck, they're popping old. Alright, everybody get behind the wall. They're popping old. Just in case you're not familiar with what that is, it's a very easy definition. Securities fraud is the misrepresentation or omission of information to induce investors into trading. Let's see if they were admitting that. You see, Nikola promised a response to all of the questions. And then they did a very strange thing where they only touched on about 10 of them. And wouldn't you know it, the majority of their answers offered more confusion than clarification. For example, here's what Nikola said about the truck rolling downhill and how that actually isn't that bad. Nikola never said that the truck was moving under its own propulsion, but the truck was designed to be able to. You see, you morons thought that the commercial being titled Nikola One in Motion meant powertrain driven. That's on you, bro. Plus, this video is 3 years old already. Oh my god, shut up. Can we talk about the economic and social state of the world right now instead? Hello? Common sense? You're gonna tell me that in motion doesn't mean that it's driving? We know that wheels roll. You're demonstrating that wheels roll in a commercial? You guys call it the 1,000 horsepower zero emission Nikola One semi-truck in the description of your video. You cannot have 1,000 horsepower if you do not have 1 horsepower. But they aren't done. They look at the comments Nikola responded to under their commercial across multiple different social media platforms, and wouldn't you know it, the company confirmed that the Nikola One had over 1,000 horsepower, over 2,000 foot-pounds of torque, and can handle a 7% grade no problem. Readers would likely have interpreted this as an ability to climb up a 7% grade hill, not roll down a very steep hill. So let's revisit a recent definition, misrepresenting or omitting information to induce investments. What do we think, guys? Sounds like securities fraud to me. Reminder, this is their defense, and in it, they are admitting to fraud. Nikola attempts to clarify what the definition of a pusher is in order to say that they weren't one. Wait. Shh. Sweetheart, stop talking. That argument works if, let's say, pusher wasn't defined already. But it was. By Trevor. On camera. Nikola called it functioning and fully built. Trevor said this thing fully functions and works, which is really incredible. He said, "We will have a chain on the seats to prevent people from coming and just for the safety. I don't want someone to end up doing something and driving this truck off the stage." He said, "No, it's real. You're going to see this as a real truck, and this is not a pusher. This isn't just a pusher, and this is a fully functioning vehicle." The fact that the truck was intended to work one day does not remove the fact that he was lying through his teeth at that moment, and in that state, it was, in fact, a pusher. Also, while we're on the topic of things that don't work, your response to the fact that you have no hydrogen production was, "Duh, we were going to, though." Securities fraud! What? You said that you were making a full ton of it a day. That is not happening. Nikola attempts to explain away the $3.5 billion in sales that they claim to have largely off of the back of a company that could afford 4 trucks by saying simply that they have another company that they would like to sell to in like 3 years. If your best response is to not acknowledge the actual lie and instead do the equivalent of shoving a plant in front of a hole in the wall, you're probably in some deep shit. Regardless, answering that the money is actually coming from somewhere else that you just can't see is literally never an acceptable answer in finance. Finally, the question, why was Trevor's brother appointed to the director of hydrogen production since he had no experience in hydrogen technology, got 2 separate answers. Officially, via press release, we got the answer, Travis Milton previously owned and operated his own construction company preparing him for hydrogen station infrastructure and build-outs. Though unofficially, via an Instagram rant that has since been deleted by the most understandably insecure businessman on the planet, Trevor offered, "Why do you give a shit? Go start your own company. Hire your own employees." 6 days after this response, Trevor Milton stepped down as executive chairman and left the board of Nikola Corporation as the company continued to helplessly plummet further and further. Within less than a year of stepping down, he had been arrested on charges of securities fraud and wire fraud, and put on a $100 million bond. After a lengthy trial, on December 18, 2023, Trevor Milton was officially sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. He was required to pay $168 million in restitution, though federal prosecutors fought to bring that up to over $600 million for the damages he brought to thousands of investors, given that that price is an insulting fraction of the stock value at its peak. He was not brought to jail immediately as he appealed his sentence. But something funny happened. You'd never believe it, but Trevor Milton is a staunch Republican who donated over $1.8 million to Donald Trump and aligned committees over the course of the 2024 election cycle. And 2 months after he took office, Donald Trump outright pardoned him, absolving him of his conviction entirely. He will serve 0 days in jail and will not be responsible for a single dollar being paid back. Trevor's LinkedIn bio currently boasts that he once created a company worth $30 billion. What did Trevor think to say? Yet another omission strategically made to afford himself new opportunities. But for the first time in his life, he's telling the truth. It doesn't matter how he got there or what happened after. It doesn't mention the investors or the promises or the outcome. Because at the end of the day, none of that seems to matter. With no repercussions, how is this business ending different than any other? Thank you so much for watching this episode of Meowkit Mayhem. I really hope you enjoyed it. This one took me a whopping 300 hours to make. And I'm expecting to make about $50 from it. Now, the economy is absolutely fucked. I'm not expecting anything from you. Your engagement means more than you can possibly know. But if you have $3 and are willing to separate with them, my Patreon is a place where you can spend said $3. It'll support me and make this a financially viable endeavor instead of 25 cents an hour. And will get you bonus and early access content while doing so. If you want to be in a future Meowkit Mayhem, consider following the Twitch, which is the same username as here. And if you want your shoes to fit you properly, make sure you buy them in the afternoon or even evening, because your feet swell as the day goes on. And if you buy them in the morning, you're not really accounting for the fact that they can continue to expand as you walk on them and use them more. So just something to keep in mind. All right. Peace. Special thanks to You Will Be Deleted, Amazing Adrian, Anna Huss, Orna Punda, Charles Hanchett, Enigmatic, Eva, Fawn, Bromlet, Gingy, Joe Hage, Margot W., Matt Williams, Moldy Brett Millie, Not Niles, Rachel, Violet, and Zest for their extra contributions.